Mad Scientist, and this is a video response to a video called Willow vs. Alice Part 1, posted by Save the Vampires. It's an interesting question. Willow and Alice are both very strong female characters in worlds that are largely dominated by vampires. Willow is not a vampire, notably. She is a witch. She calls herself Wiccan, which I think most modern Wiccan people would kind of disagree with some of her philosophies, but I've never really gone into that with any of them. But that would be an interesting discussion to have. I might have somebody talk about that on the show. But there are some interesting similarities between Willow and Alice. Now, Alice, as I've brought up, is a vampire, but she does have a superpower, which in the Twilight universe is pretty common. I mean, maybe not entirely common, but not unheard of. Vampires often have enhanced senses and enhanced abilities as compared to what they had in life. Alice has the ability to see potential futures based on people's motives. She looks into the futures of people she cares about and tries to prevent bad things from happening to them. She uses it to win the lottery. Not win the lottery. She doesn't use it to win the lottery. Alice doesn't misuse her powers for evil. No, she uses it to play the stock market, which is so much better. But less likely to get caught up with by the IRS, I guess. Probably not as well managed as the lottery is, as you can tell by our current economy. But yes, Willow does not have the ability to see the future. She is merely a witch. She has superpowers. She can fly. I'd like to note here that Alice cannot fly. So it's worth noting that Alice does not have an advantage against Willow in the flight department. For one thing, she can use magic. I cannot stress that enough. Willow is essentially made of magic. She is very powerful. She has become both completely evil and completely good in separate instances, as you'll remember from the end of season 6 when Willow went dark and evil and killed some people, and the very end of season 7 in episode, I don't remember the number, I guess it was 22 because it was the final episode. It's called Chosen. Willow ascends and becomes the white-haired goddessy version of herself. So she has the ability to use magic for both good and evil, depending on what she feels like doing. In fact, if you've read Buffy Season 8, which I'm sure Save the Vampires has read Buffy Season 8, because, I mean, clearly there's a copy there. But Buffy Season 8, Willow is still really struggling with her magic issues. I mean, she has in the past suffered from magic addiction, which is part of what caused her to go dark in season 6. Now, Alice's addictions tend to be more in the shopping department. She likes to spend a lot of money. She likes to have very nice, bright yellow banana-colored cars. She enjoys driving very fast, but most vampires seem to do that. She really cares about her family and friends in a way that is not unheard of for vampires even in the Buffyverse. You'll notice a certain devotion between the Fanged Four in some instances. Now, if you don't know what the Fanged Four is, this is a group of vampires called the Scourge of Europe. Drusilla is very interesting. She is very devoted to her family. She loves her daddy, who is Angelus. She loves her little boy, or her boy, Spike. She loves her grandmother, Darla. But Drusilla, she has this commitment to her family, and she also has this interesting talent. She can see the future. Now, who do we know that has... Oh, yes, Alice. So, here are two vampires that share pretty much the same talent. Now, I think it's kind of interesting that there's a distinction in maybe not how they see it, because I kind of feel like it's about the same, but what they see. Drusilla is pretty committed to evil. Vampires in the Buffyverse tend to be that way. Alice obviously is committed to, if not good, then certainly the better service of her family and herself. But yes, rather than comparing Willow Rosenberg to Alice Cullen, I think it would be more... Well, I mean, you can compare Willow to Alice on terms of which one do you like better and which one is more favorable, but comparing Willow to Alice on any other term seems somewhat futile to me, because Willow and Alice have very little in common. They have sort of the same haircut if you've seen the movie Twilight. But Willow and Alice, in my opinion, don't have a lot in common. Now, if you compare Alice and Drusilla, I think you'll find something very interesting. They're both very similar characters. One is clearly evil, because almost all vampires in the Buffyverse are evil, with very little exception. You have to be under a certain sort of spell or curse to keep your soul as a vampire, or to regain your soul as a vampire, which I think is pretty much the only way we've seen it done. Willow, clearly not a vampire, except for in The Wish, which is also in Doppelgangland. So that's 2 episodes in which Willow is a vampire. And when she is a vampire, she's very cool, but she doesn't have any magical powers, unlike her not-vampire self, which is, I think, kind of interesting. That if Buffy had never come along, Willow would have never found magic, and she would have been made a vampire, so that's kind of dead and not all that special. But she is kind of special because she's one of the Master's favorites. But yes, Willow, not a vampire, most of the time. Buffy and Twilight, they're very different stories about very different kinds of vampires, and I think it's interesting to compare them and to look at them in sort of an objective and studious way to better understand vampires in literature and in the media, and also to better understand the 2 individual universes as they are. I think that people who read Twilight and enjoy it would be interested to know that the main villain in Buffy Season 8 that we know of right now is a man called Twilight. So there's some food for thought. Next episode, we will be discussing the differences between Edward Cullen and Angel. I hope you will be listening, and I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. Also, I am Mad Scientist, and I thank you all for listening, and have a nice, pleasant